Hello, anybody who happens to find this. Today I will be working on this little project right here in front of me and discussing FNAF lore. Yay, everybody's favorite. But, understood. There is so much information and so much of it is conflicting or there's just pieces missing. But that is not specifically what we're doing today. So, what I want to do is that, with all the love in the world, all due respect, I am going to complain and nitpick about all the little things that make no sense at all. So, yeah, where do we start? Let's start with game 1. Foxy's mechanic. Lore-wise, I don't know if anybody's ever discussed it, if there was some significance to Foxy's behavior, but it's just I don't think it was all that deep. I think it was just, to make the game a little more challenging, because without Foxy's mechanic, let's be honest, you could probably close both doors and stay out of the cameras and get through the night just fine. But Foxy's mechanic exists, so you can't just breeze your way through it. And imagine how boring it would be if you could do it that way, right? Okay. Let's see. The unaliving method seems to be believed and confirmed to be knife wounds, and it's just once you factor in the spring lock suits, once that was a part of the lore, you would think that you would have to consider another method, because if the spring locks are as sensitive to moisture as it is indicated and believed, then anything where fluids are not staying in one place would be really, really bad. The spring locks would have failed a lot sooner if even a little bit of the red stuff got on or in the suit. Not to mention cleaning anything that has a cloth surface of the human life sauce. It is very difficult to get out of cloth anyway, but add on top of that it's on a metal frame with mechanical and electrical parts inside of it. Oh my god, that's a nightmare. Not to mention any floors, ceilings, surfaces, and it's just if they did, I don't know if they had the technology, the clue finding stuff to detect the red stuff on surfaces yet, if that was common practice to use luminol. But yeah, it would be really easy to miss. It'd be really easy to miss even all the places that a stray drop could have landed, or several, because messy. There are less messy ways to end somebody. Hang on, let me adjust that a little bit. There we go. And it's just if the spring lock suits are also really sensitive to movement, that rules out almost any method of ending a person prematurely, before their time. And then my biggest complaint with the early games is this idea of hiding the bodies inside the suits, because it's just if the place kept running after the initial investigation, right, they would have plenty of reason to be able to come back and open up the suits, especially once the suits started smelling, I don't know, like something died. That's suspicious. I mean, that sounds like grounds for a new warrant to me. But, it is what it is. There's plenty of reasons to love this series. I just think it's fun to nitpick all the little things that don't make sense. I wonder what's going on out there. Anyway. Let's see, what else? I mean, the local police would have to be pretty inept and or paid off really well and have no one with connections to the victims' families for something like smell of decay and death from animatronics and not going back. I mean, if there was even one police officer on the force who was remotely connected to one of the victims, if there's suddenly complaints that the animatronics smell like something is rotting, that's like, I would imagine someone would be very gung-ho to be like, we didn't check those before. Why didn't we think to check those before? Let's get back in there and take a look at those. I mean, yeah. Just so much doesn't add up. But that's okay. And sometimes part of the fun is doing these little nitpicks. But also, sometimes there's important information in the blank spaces, in the things that don't add up. Kind of like how in Sudoku puzzles, you can figure out what something is by what's not there. Okay. Let's see. Game 2, there are the toys, and they are supposedly haunted. And it's just like, are they haunted because they took parts from the previous, the true missing child incident, moving graves, if you will? Or is it because there are new deaths, there are new missing children? And, like, even if that's the case, even if there's new, missing children, it's just like, so what's the story with Balloon Boy? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And Mangle? Oh, another thing with Mangle, alright? So, you're telling me that this robot is in a room with toddlers, essentially. And it's the toddlers that are taking this robot apart repeatedly. And the staff have to put it back together every day. How does that make sense? That makes no sense to me. It's like, first, how is anyone letting children that young be unsupervised with a robot? And second, like, don't you kind of need tools to take something like that apart? Where are they getting the tools? Like, is Toy Foxy just that poorly put together? And I'm not inclined to believe that. So there's something going on with the way Mangle ended up. Like, there's gotta be. And is Mangle haunted? Like, is Mangle possessed by a fraction of one of the spirits? And then it's just like, how does the transference work? Is like, are different pieces of the animatronic more remnant heavy than others? Or does it just matter if is a single screw from one of these animatronics have enough remnant to possess a new animatronic and give control to the spirit within the first one? So many things just don't add up. And then what is with Toy Bonnie's eyes, right? Like, that's some pretty sophisticated technology to be able to make eyes that, you know, can dilate the irises, you know? And then what purpose would that have had in the original design? Or was it not designed like that? Because if Toy Bonnie was not designed to have eyes that can do that, then that's so weird. Like, how? Because that's not just something like that, I don't know, just ghost shenanigans? I mean, is that what we're gonna call it? Ghost shenanigans? It doesn't make sense. But then, I'm just going on about things that don't really make sense to me. So, yay, there's that. Let's see, what else? Foxy's mechanic, again, in Game 2. And along with Balloon Boy, Mangle, each having their own thing, might not mean anything more than just, you know, this is a way to ensure that the game stays, you know, challenging, stays interesting, it's not too easy. Because, you know, who wants to play a game that's, like, super easy to figure out and not all that scary because everything is predictable and works the same way? Like, there may not be anything particularly special about Foxy. Like, he may just have the mechanics that he has just to make sure the game is, you know, fun. And Balloon Boy? Again, is Balloon Boy an animatronic? Like, you would imagine that he would have to be? But then, it doesn't look like he was designed to be able to move. As far as I can tell. But then, he's also the first character in any of the games besides, like, well, of the animatronics, to have anything close to human speech. Right? You can say hi, hello, laugh. And it's just like, while that is, you know, creepy, it is an indicator that things are about to go really wrong. It's just like, does it mean anything? Does it mean nothing at all? Is it just, you know, flavor? I don't know. Let's see. What else? Heck. Okay. So, yeah, that's where we were. Ooh. Sister location. Let's just jump around because I'm just going to go off of what's off of the top of my head until and unless, you know, people ask questions or throw their own opinions out there. But, let's see, sister location. Problems with sister location. And it's just like the Biddy Babs and the mini arenas, right? If they're controlled by, you know, Baby and Ballora respectively, then what happened to them once they all became entered? Like, did they join, you know, the hive mind? Did they become part of Enter? Did they just stop functioning? I don't think they would have just disappeared or stopped working because, you know, they were, you know, their own independent animatronics to some degree or other, you know? So, what happened? And then, how are they being controlled? Like, so, let me gather my thoughts here a second. The fun times, right? How do you suppose they got to be the state that they were in, right? Did they get previously exposed to Remnant? Was it from some other, you know, death thing? Was it... Well, we know that Sister Location happened after Freddy's closed, so we also know that the toy animatronics were scrapped after the Bite of 87. which was around the time that the main animatronics that we were first introduced to get, refurbished, made to look nice and new. So, to me, it makes sense that the toy animatronics got melted down, whatever parts of them that contained remnant melted down. But then, how was it broken up between the fun times? Did each animatronic get relegated to a new one? Did they all get, thrown together into a mishmash and then divvied up between them? And then, by that point, I can't see the original spirits that are connected to the animatronics having any sort of control, or maybe even connection. It's just loose remnant and agony and what have you. So, remnant agony gets introduced to the animatronics, and the personalities that emerge are exaggerations or manifestations of the AI within each one. Because, otherwise I don't see it working. I don't, because they would be too similar. They would already kind of be a hive mind if they're all just kind of thrown together. If they're all thrown together before being sampled out between the different animatronics, then it would make sense that they're already a hive mind. But then why did it take so long for them to come up with the plan to escape? It took so long to enact it. They wouldn't have even needed Baby for that. Except maybe for the talent of the animatronic that she is. The gift she was blessed with in the design and processes and whatnot. And that's another thing. It's just this company, Afton Robotics and whatnot, in the exchange about design ideas, there's somebody doing quality control on these animatronics, right? There's somebody overseeing the designs, approving them and whatnot. So how did these designs get made? How did he convince them, and who did he have to convince to sign off on these particular designs? How? I don't get it. Unless he already knew some things and was able to show some kind of evidence or proof to get people on board. Because otherwise, I think I would, if that's my boss, I think I would have quit. Or if they worked under me, I think I would have had them reported and possibly committed. Because, what possible purpose could you have for designing these robots with the ability to store a child-sized human within its body, to alter its voice? It's just these designs are wildly unsafe. What are you thinking here? What's the thought process here? But somebody else saw these designs and was just what's going on? So, I'm not sure, but I don't think Afton had complete control of the company that he made, that with his name on it, or he had other people, on board and convinced about what he was doing, which is, even scarier to me. Because, oh yeah, another thing. The sister location bunker, if it is truly underneath the Afton house, how did it get there? Because, you can't just build underneath a pre-existing building and not have anybody know. Because you kind of have to, lift the house up, dig underneath it. And then, there's got to be more than one way in and out of that place. Because people just going into a person's house for hours on end, day after day, it just... unless it is something that is not a secret to the people in town, like that's the way in and out, that's suspicious. That's weird. Like, and then not just that, but those kids, like, people just coming into their house, going into a room, and then disappearing. I mean, what? How? Why? Just, I love FNAF, right? And I kind of came into it backwards, right? But make it make sense, please, right? And like, there's always been complaints about the animatronics being realistic. Oh yeah, that's another one. It's just like, yeah, we can agree. The animatronics don't function or behave like realistically, because, like, let's take Foxy for example. Do you know how much, like, energy and force it would take to be able to make something as big and heavy, even though Foxy's on the small side compared to the others? How much you would need to be able to make an animatronic run. And not even just that, but you have to have an entirely different mechanism in place to be able to make it stop without falling over. And, like, what possible purpose could you have in making an animatronic that is capable of running? It makes no sense at all. What else? Let's see here. Oh, Ruin. Bouncing around again. You cannot trust a single thing that happens after Cassie puts on the mask, because no matter how good AR or VR is, it cannot affect the physical world. It's just not possible. So everything she sees, everything she interacts with, that is there or isn't there based on whether she's wearing the mask or not, you can't trust it. It's just, but then that throws into question, like, how much of the events in this game, in this DLC, can you trust? And it's just like, you can't trust that any of it happened, like, at all. And, like, I mean, sure, it's fun. That's the point of games. They're supposed to be fun, and they can be challenging and or scary, depending on the genre. But in the end, it's just all supposed to be for fun. Right? But you've got to have some kind of way to explain things, even in your universe. Like, because even in magic systems, there's some kind of framework in place for how it all works. You have to know the laws of the universe that you're working in to be able to effectively break them. And this is breaking so many laws, and it's just like universal laws, physical reality, truths, and all that. And it's just like, we don't even really know or understand the full extent of the laws of this world. Like, we know what Remnant is, we know what Agony is, but that's still not much. There's not much to go on, honestly. And then there's the books, and now the movie, and then the book based on the movie, and all these kinds of things. And it's just like, oh, yeah. Another little fun thing. While I'm thinking about it, because, I mentioned the books, I think, me personally, that the story of Alone Together has a critical piece that is overlooked, right? So, we have our main character being told about what happens during a possession, right? And these are things that the character is experiencing. The critical piece that I think gets overlooked is that this is a ghost telling another ghost about what is happening to them. This isn't about possession from a living person's perspective. This is possession from a ghost perspective. And I think that is a vital piece of information. That's just my opinion. But, you know, I could be wrong. But that's what makes this fun. Okay. So what else? Okay, so I've temporarily run out of nitpicks. So I'm just gonna throw some of my some possibly really crazy theory thoughts out there. So here goes. I have only one piece of circumstantial evidence, but that's like a lot of what FNAF theory can be based around and based on for this one. But I think that Freddy, Glamrock Freddy, is possessed, but by someone that nobody would suspect, especially if you buy into the, Gregory is a robot theory. So, here it goes. I think that it is the crying child who possesses Glamrock Freddy. Only because, and then here comes the circumstantial evidence, the line, "My friends are here," has been seen in this franchise once before. Very specifically, the crying child talking about, the stuffed animals who could possibly represent his friends who had been murdered. So, yeah, do with that what you will. It's just a thought, just a theory. It's meant to be fun, not to be taken too seriously. But if it is taken seriously, that could be interesting too, because, the theory crafting is a big part of what makes the FNAF fandom, what it is, as big as it is, right? So, what else? Another personal pet theory is that there is all kinds of gender non-conforming things in the characters and the story of FNAF across the different games, right? So, let's start off with the puppet. If we believe puppet is Charlie Emily, let's think about it for a second. Charlie is a name that is a nickname for either Charlotte or Charles. The puppet animatronic itself is a genderless androgynous being. It is neither male nor female. And from what I understand, from what I've researched, all of the animatronics and the souls that possess them align as far as gender and gender identity, because animatronics don't have a gender, but their characters do. And if you believe that Cassie is part of Golden Freddy, Cassie's the exception, but we'll come back to that. Right? So, Charlie is non-binary, gender non-conforming, gender fluid possibly. Who knows? This is just, again, my personal theories, my personal pet theories. Let's see. So, Cassidy. Did I say? I might have misspoke earlier. So, Cassidy, right? If you believe that Cassidy is within Golden Freddy, and that Cassidy is the one he should not have killed, which, to be frank, you shouldn't go around killing people. You just shouldn't. But if Cassidy is the one he should not have killed, all of the references to Cassidy in a gendered way are masculine. And Golden Freddy is a masculine character. So, again, no real proof here. This is just, my for fun pet theory. Cassidy's a trans boy. But, again, don't take it too personal. This is just for fun. Okay, what else? Right. Mangle, aka Toy Foxy. Now, when we see Mangle has two heads. Oh yeah, that's another one of my nitpicks about things that don't make sense. If Mangle's getting taken apart and put back together, then where did the second endoskeleton head come from first? And second, who decided to do that? But anyway, I was off on a little tangent. Mangle has two separate heads, and they have different voice tones, different vocal ranges when we get speaking lines for them in Ultimate Custom Night, but they speak together. The heads speak together, so I believe that Mangle Toy Foxy is one being, but I'm also inclined to believe that Mangle is bigender, not just a he or a she or a they. Well, could be a they. Could be, both at the same time kind of deal. Okay. And we already discussed the puppet and Golden Freddy, so that's games 1 and 2. Which one came after that? There's not really anything of interest gender-wise for game 3 or 4. Excuse me. Let's see. And then, is it FNAF World? I think it's FNAF World after that. We get to meet Funtime Foxy and Lolbit. And, all of the Foxies after, Gen 1 have been very feminine, even though the character itself has not changed. It's still a masculine character with a feminine presentation. So, put that together with Ultimate Custom Night and Funtime Foxy's mechanics and personality and voice lines, and it's just like Funtime Foxy's a drag queen. That's all. That's the only conclusion I can draw. Funtime Foxy is a drag queen. So, anyway, I hope you're enjoying listening to this. Hope this is entertaining. And I could take a break from talking about FNAF just a moment to show my work. I am making a scarf that is a late Christmas present for someone in my life. It is a sage green, Simply Soft Caron, C-A-R-O-N yarn, and this is a fisherman's rib scarf. So it's nice and stretchy and squishy. Hang on just a moment, I need a drink. Okay. Let's see. And then we have Ennard, who is, the combination of all the fun times. So, that brings me to another one of my nitpicks, and it's, what happened to Bon Bon? Right? And let me explain my thinking here. It's like, Ennard has 6 eyes, right? 2 from Freddy, and 1 from each of the other characters, including Bon Bon. So, Bon Bon is present and identified as being, their own character, person, being in the being known as Ennard. But when we meet Molten Freddy in Pizzeria Sim, the listed animatronics for Molten Freddy are Funtime Foxy, Funtime Freddy, Ballora, and who else? Foxy, Freddy, Ballora. Why can't I remember the next one? I don't think Bonbon... I'm pretty sure Bonbon wasn't listed in the components for Funtime Freddy. Fairly certain of that, because I'm pretty sure I looked it up at one point. Or I saw it and then looked up, Ennard, because I remembered seeing all of the eyes on Ennard and who they belonged to. Let's see. I believe there were 5 animatronics. There's Baby, Ballora, Funtime Foxy, Funtime Freddy. Who's missing? Is there anybody missing? Well, I suppose in the end it doesn't really matter who else was there or who I'm forgetting, because the point of the question was Bonbon was acknowledged as having been their own separate animatronic in Ennard, if the eyes are any indication. But when we meet Molten Freddy, Bonbon is not listed as a component. At least I don't think so. So, what happened? Where did he go? That is the question. Okay. Back to nitpicks, because I am remembering more. The scooper. It's like that should not work for any of the things that it's supposed to do, or any of the things that it ends up doing, right? Because even if the animatronics are fixed in place, what the scoop would only just scoop whatever is in range. It wouldn't just remove the entire endoskeleton from the exoskeleton, from the plates, right? And how are those attached anyway? What's keeping the body plates in place, the face plates and all that? Because when you see the remains on the floor in the scooper before the scooping, it's just the shells, just the outer pieces, right? So where did the rest of the parts go? And then I'm finding it harder to articulate my thoughts than I think it should be. So let's gather some thoughts. Okay. So if the scooper is also a remnant injector, then have all the animatronics previously been scooped and then put back in their shells? I mean, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. So it is what it is. But yeah. I'm not sure that Funtime Freddy was really all that anxious to get out of Sister Location. Or, any of them, really. Because, if the jump scares end in death, then, like, they are all very willing to kill you before that final night. So either it wasn't a very good plan, or they just wanted blood. I mean, it's just like, yeah, if we get out of here, that's great, but, until then, should we kill this guy? I think we should kill this guy. Yeah, let's do that. Alrighty. Other complaints about sister location. Why in the world would any place be designed that you have to go through the air ducts to get from room to room? It's like these rooms don't have doors. It's like, why don't these rooms have doors? How did you get in and out? Like, did you build the rooms around the animatronics? Because, like, that would indicate that either the structure wasn't complete by the time that the animatronics were prematurely retired, or that once they were, it's just like, these guys are too dangerous to give them access to the outside world. But then there shouldn't have been any need to, lock them in a room, like, shock them if they left their platforms, because unless the air ducts were big enough to accommodate all of them comfortably, they wouldn't have a way of moving around either. It's just, again, I love this series, and it's like, all due respect for the creativity and the thought that went into it, but I'm a contrarian, and I am enjoying, like, taking all these little pieces apart, and it's just like, look at it, make it make sense. Or it's just like, you see this? You see this? Okay, I'm glad you see this, because, it's just, it can be fun. It can be fun to critique something. And it's not any kind of derogatory, it's not any hate at all. I understand the creative process and all the things that can slip through the cracks, right? Okay. Let's see. What else shall we talk about? Oh, another little pet theory of mine. As far as the books go, the Frights, I think, especially. Lonely Freddy, the story, has major implications and possibly real world, air quotes, in FNAF implications, like impact. Because, like, the books are kind of their own continuity, their own kind of what could be in this world. So Lonely Freddy, I mean, if you think about it, you have what could possibly be a small army of these artificial souls. That's how I think of them. Who would have every motivation to spend their money, to get jobs, to get educations, to help further the Fazbear franchise. So, with all that, let's say Lonely Freddy happened, and you've got any number of kids and teens being possessed by these artificial souls that, as they learn about you, they become you. They swap your body, right? Swap bodies with you. So not only do you have beings who look and behave as though they're human, because they technically are, the soul within the body is not, but everything else is, who can then continue to build the Fazbear franchise. But then you've got all these human souls trapped in artificial bodies that will never be able to go home, never see their family again. And I mean, that sounds like a great recipe for an indefinite supply of agony, honestly. And it's because of my thinking with Lonely Freddy and its implications that I believe, well, Gregory could be a robot. And if he is the crying child, then his soul is an artificial one, and that the true soul of this person is in Golden Freddy, which loops back to my earlier thing. So, yeah. Okay. Right. With Molten Freddy, Scrap Baby, the Blob, and all that follows, the fact that they have the face plates, they have the masks, means that unless Ennard brought all of the face plates and masks with them when they left the bunker, that they, in part or in whole, went back for them, because I don't see like merchandise being available for them to just kind of like swap, get a hold of just out in the wild. So they would have had to have gone back. And like, for being so eager to escape, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Unless it relates to the sense of identity, which very well could be. Oh, gosh. And then, the next question is just like, what were the individual animatronics doing, exactly, out in the world, where they're never caught, or never picked up, or at least as far as we know, in the time that they, like, break free to the time that they end up in Pizzeria Sim? Because, like, do they just stop moving during the day? Stop being able to think or plan or do any kind of thing like that? It's like, did somebody pick them up at some point? Like, I kind of want to know the misadventures of the animatronics before they eventually meet their end. Or not, because, the Blob exists and, Security Breach and Ruin. So, yeah. What happened to them in the meantime? Like, how did Scrap Baby end up with that massive claw? Like, what is that even from? And why roller skates? Oh, yeah, another pet theory of mine. Here we go. Michael Afton, once Ennard vacated his body, got a crash course in robotics. I believe that he is in part responsible for Scrap Baby. I believe he's partly responsible for Scrap Baby being in the state that she's in, rebuilding her once Ennard has left and she's no longer part of the being that goes on to be Molten Freddy. And then I think it goes on after that. I think the robotics stuff continues for Michael. Because if we believe that the room in Security Breach that looks like the sister location room belongs to Michael, and the message in it was written by Michael, whose breath would he have built? You can't make something that doesn't breathe. I mean, you can make it seem like it is, but as far as I can tell, none of the animatronics have a breath simulation factor. So, whose breath did he build? Why? If we believe that Gregory is a robot child and is meant to be a replica or a vessel for the crying child, he could be a biological robot. Like, by that I mean, if you've ever seen Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams, an android goes on to study medicine and build, artificial body parts that function in the same way that the human body does. And it goes on to save lots of lives, but it can also make an artificial life form become essentially a biological one, in form and function at least. So there wouldn't be any real way to tell them apart. But who knows? Let's see. I'm going to finish this row and then get a drink. Yeah, it was on the right side. Yeah, lots of pet theories, lots of nitpicks. So just a little bit of a kind of a food for thought moment I had a while back. It's not really a theory or anything, it's just like, excuse me, what if? So my thought was, what if Monty Gator is as destructive as he is because he knows what he did to Glamrock Bonnie, and he had no control over himself in doing so, and his animosity towards Freddy is like a kind of, why weren't you there for this? You could have held me off until whatever was controlling me stopped, or you could have at least have gone down protecting Bonnie. Who knows? Speculation, all of it. Let's see. I'm just kind of going on and on. Let's see, do I have any other personal pet theories or nitpicks? Oh, I'm sure I do. I have ADHD for sure. So if I try to retrieve information actively from my brain's just like, no, you almost had it. Gotta be quicker than that. It doesn't exactly cooperate. So it just, as it comes, as things go. And then my next issue is Cassie, right? How is it that she who's supposed to be watching this girl? Like, does she have a babysitter? Is she staying with a foster family? Is she staying with a relative? It's like, who is responsible for this child? Because it doesn't appear that she's homeless. So how did she get away with getting out of the house that night? And then, how did the Roxy Talkie end up outside the Pizzaplex? Not just any Roxy Talkie. The Roxy Talkie that's connected to the one the Mimic has, and that the battery life isn't in any jeopardy of failing. So, like, how? Why? So many mysteries, so many unanswered questions, and sometimes answering one question just leads to more questions. Or trying to answer one question leaves that question not only unanswered, but additional questions in relation to those. So, if you're watching, if you're listening, do you have any thoughts or ideas you'd want to share? How am I doing with either my knitting or my theory crafting? That's okay. I can just keep, kind of talking to myself, talking out loud. Maybe you'll get to see a kitty if they decide to come over. But trying to think of everything I've ever wanted to say in regards to the FNAF franchise. There's a lot, I'm sure, but it's just not really readily supplied by my brain. On another note, musical note, the FNAF fan music is something else. When I mentioned earlier that I got into the fandom, got into the franchise backwards, and by that I mean there are children in my life, right? And I knew that one of them liked Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm not sure how they got introduced to it or whatever, but when I saw or found a trailer for the movie before it came out, I showed it to them. And then we were on YouTube to try to see if there were any more, and they suggested to me, why not look up songs, look up FNAF songs? And it's just like, I'm not sure those exist, kid. But boy, was I wrong. So you start listening to and watching these videos, and I'm a vocalist. I like to sing. I like the vocal parts of music. So listening to the lyrics of some of these songs, it's just like, what the heck is this game series about? So then I started looking it up. We kind of did a mini dive into the lore of FNAF and ended up discovering game theory because of it, Rytoast and such. So, music, and then lore, and then games, and then the movie, because the movie wasn't out yet. So, yeah, very backwards. But, there are a lot of talented creators as far as the FNAF fan music goes. The kids that I mentioned got MP3 players for Christmas, and they're loaded with 80 or more FNAF fan songs exclusively. And it's I don't blame you, kids. There's a lot of really good music out there. A lot of favorites. I mean, but it's hard not to make something good when you have a passion for not only what you do, but for what inspires your artistry, your creativity. Oh, goodness. Let's see. I'm also, I'm jumping around. I also find it hard to believe that once the missing children were placed inside the animatronics, that they just stayed there indefinitely. Like, it would make sense to come back later and move them to a proper place where there's far less chance of being discovered. And the thing about the remnant formula, if you will, that it's created when metal is in contact with flesh. I think it was the term the term used was flesh, and a human soul. And it's just like, does the flesh have to belong to the soul, and does it have to be, not alive flesh? Because anything that's ever been made, unless it came off an assembly line, has been in contact with human flesh, the hands, and perhaps other areas of the person constructing said animatronic. That's even more so true with like all of the original characters for the FNAF franchise, because if it's not specified that the flesh and soul have to belong to the same individual, or that they have to be in contact at the same time, then you could just as easily create a haunted animatronic without having a body, a dead body, anywhere near it. Because, like, souls can attach themselves to all kinds of things, right? That's like a fundamental thing in almost any kind of ghost lore, if you will. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay. A loop slipped off, but I got it. It is safe. Whew. I mean, you could get remnant from, like, any sort of jewelry that meant something to somebody. Because, like, it was in contact with them while they were alive, and if they touched it with their spirit self, with or without knowing that they had passed, boom, remnant. Metal, flesh, soul, done. But, again, who knows? I think I'm going to end up posting this on YouTube later. Yeah, I think I probably will. Wait. Unless it's recording this as well. I can't. But I think it is. I'll post this on YouTube later. Maybe I'll get some interesting thoughts or comments or feedback on my theories or ideas or questions. There we go. But I think that will be all for today. Thank you so much for your time, for listening and hanging out. I will be live tomorrow, and I will be playing, most likely, a Five Nights at Freddy's game. I only own, like, a few, but maybe I'll see you there. Have a good day. Bye.